سيأتي ويعيد الأمور إلى ما كانت عليه قبل ترامب، فاتحا للقادة وللأنظمة في منطقتنا الطريق للعودة إلى سياسات وأنشطة سابقة كأن شيئا لم يكن، لكن ما يظنونه شيء وما يجري في واشنطن شيء آخر. ومعنا اليوم المبعوث الأمريكي إلى إيران وفنزويلا والمستشار السابق للرئيس بوش عن الشرق الأوسط وابرامز، الذي أمضى عقودا طويلة يدرس ويدرس وينص سياسات أمريكية لمنطقتنا. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Ambassador. Let's start here in Washington. Republicans accuse Democrats of stealing the election. President Trump refuses to concede the election. So far, the courts do not seem convinced that there has been a widespread fraud. I wonder what your thoughts are these days, and do you approve of Trump's opposition?
You know, I'm here in the State Department. And I am a diplomat and I cover foreign policy. So the only thing I'll say about our domestic policy is that this will all sort itself out. You know, we have a strange system in a way. It's really 50 separate state elections. And the states have not yet certified the results. They will soon, this week, maybe next week. And this will all sort itself out.
In this case, let's move to the Middle East. A lot of people are scared that a Biden administration would embolden Iran. What do you think Biden is going to do with Iran? Is rejoining the nuclear deal a real possibility? And what would that entail?
We have built up, through the maximum pressure campaign against Iran, a lot of leverage for the United States. And the leverage should now be used to force Iran into a much better deal than the JCPOA. A comprehensive deal that covers the missile program and covers its behavior in the region, the aggression, the subversion, the support for terrorism, in addition to the nuclear file. To throw away all the leverage would be dangerous for the United States and even more for the countries that are nearer to Iran. So I very much hope that that does not happen. I don't think going back to the JCPOA is like turning a light switch, you know? I think it's a complicated business, and I don't think it can happen quickly, even if you want to.
Since you mentioned the maximum pressure, the U.S. administration says the maximum pressure policy with Iran has been efficient. But isn't the goal of sanctions to bring Iran back to the negotiation table? And if that hasn't happened yet, how can we speak of success, Mr. Ambassador?
Well, there are a number of ways we can speak of it. One is that we have deprived Iran of tens of billions of dollars. Our estimate is about 150 billion in total that they would use for their military and for their terrorist proxies. We know that their military budget went way up. It went up about 35% after the JCPOA gave them lots of money. But now, in the last couple of years, it has been coming down because they don't have the money. We know they've given less to Hamas. We know they've given less to Hezbollah. But I would say also, we are building leverage for a negotiation, to use in a negotiation. We don't impose sanctions just for the sake of sanctions. We do it as a basis for a successful comprehensive negotiation. So if you use that pressure, then you can have that successful negotiation. Of course, if you throw the pressure away, you're making a dangerous choice.
Mr. Ambassador, there has been an escalation in sanctions against Lebanese politicians under the Magnitsky Act. The latest, and certainly one that created a lot of buzz, were sanctions against Gibran Bassil. Bassil says he's innocent, and he challenged the Americans to show the proof they have that he is corrupt. What do you think of a statement like that?
You know, I don't think there are 5 people in Lebanon who actually believe what he's saying. I don't think there are 5 people in all of Lebanon who really think, what, Gibran Bassil corrupt? This is impossible. So I don't pay any attention to these statements he makes to the press.
So do we expect to see more sanctions coming on corrupted people in Lebanon?
I think you can expect to see that. We always build a case, and I should say that both in the State Department and the Treasury Department, this has to go through lots of lawyers who say, show us the evidence, show us the evidence. We can't just do it because we feel like it one morning. But when we have more cases to bring, you will see more.
You have worked on the Near East for decades. You have seen the extent of corruption before. Some wonder why let it happen for so long? Why only now did we begin to see real sanctions? What changed, Mr. Ambassador?
Well, in the case of Lebanon, you had people of Lebanon rising up and speaking out very loudly and saying, enough, enough. And the famous slogan, enough means enough. They clearly wanted change, and we fully support their desire for change. And what you then see is people like Gibran Bassil saying, no, shut up, we're not going to change. So we thought this is the appropriate moment to say, well, we want to make it clear we are completely opposed to that attitude and that position. We support the people of Lebanon. We have plenty of evidence, so we impose the sanctions.
But Mr. Ambassador, there is a sense in Lebanon that America doesn't really care about Lebanon. All America wants is to see Hezbollah destroyed, and if Lebanon is destroyed in the process, there wouldn't be much debate about it in the U.S. Is that true?
No, it is not. I think there are two countries far from Lebanon that really do care, France and the United States. I think you've seen that in the last year again, as we are the two leading countries that talk about economic relief for Lebanon. I think you see it in our American aid program to Lebanon. I think you see it in our support for the Lebanese armed forces, which we do because we think they are an institution of the state that represents the people of Lebanon, that does not take orders from Hezbollah. And there are plenty of Lebanese Americans, as you know, who have a special concern for Lebanon. So the notion that our only concern is Hezbollah is ridiculous. We were concerned about Lebanon decades ago when Hezbollah was just someone's imagination and not the force that it is today. This is a long-term relationship between the U.S. and Lebanon.
And Mr. Ambassador, I want to just give you an example. So yes, the Lebanese people said, we don't want Hezbollah carrying a weapon, not to be armed, but it's like someone sitting at home and someone holding the gun in their head and saying, oh, leave the house. But how can you make a difference here? Okay, the U.S. Stands with us, but is it enough?
It's a very difficult and very complicated problem, and it has been ever since Hezbollah began to build the kind of army and terrorist capabilities that it has now. And you see the reaction not only in the United States, but in Europe to Hezbollah's terrorist activities. There's no, magic wand that we can wave that solves the problem. What we need to do now, and what we are doing, and many in Europe are doing, is saying we support the people of Lebanon. Again, there's no magic switch to turn that brings you back to a situation where there is no Hezbollah. This is going to take time and will be done over a period of years. But the first thing is for the people of Lebanon to speak, and they have. And now we who support the people of Lebanon, we have to step forward with assistance, and we have to step forward with our opinions about those who are preventing change. And one of the people who was Gibran Bassil.
Mr. Ambassador, the Lebanese people don't have any confidence with the legal system in Lebanon, especially when it comes to the explosion of the port of Beirut. I mean, what's your assessment here? Do you think that this was an accident?
There needs to be a really independent and reliable investigation that the people of Lebanon and the international community, but above all the people of Lebanon, will have confidence in. And I think many Lebanese believe they will never find out the truth. If it was an accident, it was an accident because all of these materials had been left in the port. Why were they there? Who brought them there? What was the purpose of bringing them there? What was their future use supposed to be? These are the things that should be independently investigated. And I believe, as the people of Lebanon do, that it is not at all certain that they will ever find out the truth. And that's what Lebanese deserve. When you think of all the terrible destruction, they deserve the truth.
can I understand from you, is there any motion in the State Department that these ammonium or nitrate of ammonium is linked to Hezbollah, since Nathan Sales mentioned that this organization has been using this kind of materials?
Quite so. And that's why I think we here, and especially the people of Lebanon, have the right to ask if there have been previous links, and if, as we know, Hezbollah has had essentially control of the ports for a long time. Isn't the logic that this is linked to Hezbollah? Now, the logic is not proof. And of course, Hezbollah will fight to prevent really independent investigation. But that's what we want. And that's what the people of Lebanon deserve.
Mr. Ambassador, thank you so much for this interview and for your time.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. ولاحقا رجل آخر عمل في السياسة الأمريكية والأمن القومي عقودا طويلة سيعطينا وجهة نظر كما هي أيضا جون بولتن بعد قليل.
مؤسسة الطوارئ بتأمن لأكثر من 600 عائلة بتعاني من الفقر بمنطقة طرابلس مواد غذائية مجانية، مواد تنظيف، ألبسة ولوازم الأطفال. لنكمل سوا رسالتنا.